It was March of 1999 and I was 16. I had a friend who was a wee bit older than us, and he had passed his test 4 days prior to the accident. So he had asked a group of us to go out after school. So we met up, had a little drive around about East Kilbride, was heading home to my mum and dad's. I was going to get dropped off, and he just took a corner far too quickly. He approached the corner about 40 miles an hour, and it rolled out into a field. I was knocked unconscious, so I don't really know where I came out of, but I landed in the field and the car was about like 20 yards away from me. I didn't really understand my injury at the time, so there was a bit of panic. There was 5 of us in the car. I was sitting behind the driver. None of us were wearing a seatbelt. When the panic had kind of calmed down a wee bit, there was a local dog kennels that my boyfriend that I was seeing at the time, he went over and asked them to call for help, and the ambulance then came, and I was kind of drifting in and out of consciousness, so I don't really remember a lot of what was happening at the time. I kind of remember getting taken into the ambulance, hearing my mum and dad's voices. They had obviously been notified. You know, it was quite eerie when I think about it now. My dad was convinced that I was okay. We didn't know at the time what my injuries were going to be, and then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital, people, you know, poking and prodding at me. The pain in my back was unreal. I actually thought, because I landed in the field, that I had a stick or something digging into the back of me. I just didn't really know about spinal injuries back then. It didn't occur to me that's what could possibly be going on. And then I was taken to the Southern General in Glasgow the following day. Spent 6 months in total in the hospital, between the high dependency ward and then into the rehab ward. I was about a month and a half, 2 months in high dependency, had feeding tubes, I had internal damage, and I had broken my back at level T6-7, which is just below my breast line, and I've been paralysed from kind of there down ever since, no feeling or movement. And then I moved into the rehab section of the hospital, and that's when I had to learn my whole body again, just from sitting up to eating, transferring in and out the bed, eventually in and out of car, learning bladder, bowel, the care of my skin, everything was affected. It was like being a baby again. And then 6 months later I eventually got to go home. I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. There was 5 of us in the car and none of us were, and I was sitting behind the driver. So there was a broken collarbone, and my partner that I was seeing, my boyfriend at the time, he had to get staples to his head, but apart from that everybody else walked away from the accident apart from me. You know, the anger that I had at the time of why me, and the question of why me, that's now gone. So obviously I would like to think that if I had worn my seatbelt I would be okay. But I do still have that in the back of my mind, that why were they okay and they weren't wearing a seatbelt? But I think it was just my bad luck on that day. So the main service that I support is peer support. We have a team of staff and volunteers that go into the spinal unit, and we meet people not at the initial stages of their injury because we feel that's a bit too much too soon. We wait until they move through to the rehab ward, and that's where we make ourselves available. We have all got a spinal injury or condition of some sort, and we just feel that we're not medically trained, but we do know what it's like to live with a spinal injury. So whether it be, you know, we've got different people that have different interests, backgrounds, abilities, different levels of injury, so they all bring something to hopefully that patient or their family in the spinal unit that can just show them, as cheesy as it sounds, life does actually go on, just a little bit different. Everything completely changed at 16 years old, lost the use of my legs, had to relearn my body all over again. Massive impact, not only me, but my family, my mum, my dad, my little sister. It completely turned our whole lives upside down, so to me, this is the wake-up call, you know, just seeing the impact that it's had on my life. I definitely thought when I got in the car that night, I actually had a mutual friend that warned me that the driver was just trying to show off, as you do when you first get a car or you're with your friends, and he warned me and I thought I knew better. And I think that you always think it won't happen to you, but it very much can, because again, this is proof that it did happen to me. And I was just so cocky. I was just a 16-year-old girl that just thought I knew everything, but clearly not. So, you know, if you think that it can't happen to you, it can.